Hey, hi, hello, happy Saturday. I hope you're doing absolutely beautifully. Today I feel called to share, I feel called to speak, so here I am. I'm going to be reading a bit from my journal and speaking a bit. There is construction happening in the background. 'Tis life. There is a cat right here that is currently moving the camera. Also is life. Hello, kitty cat. His name is Sombra, shadow in Spanish. Yes, today I just feel like I want to speak, I want to connect, I want to share, so I hope you enjoy. I'm going to be speaking on my exploration and my experience with feminine energy and what that looks like within polarity. So I wrote that I find myself leaning into polarity as of late. Pardon the dogs. I find myself leaning into polarity as of late, embracing and embodying more of my feminine to give permission to the masculinity to lead. So there has been my partner in this space as of late, which is a masculine being, and it's been just so beautiful to see how our dynamic flourishes and blooms as we begin living together and finding our own grooves and channels and ways that we flow together. I find that he builds the structures and I harvest the fruit. There's been such beauty in the literal and symbolic events of this masculine being clearing away the physical overgrowth of my inner world, or this physical world. I see my home, I see this space as my sanctuary, as an extension of my energy, as a manifestation of my inner world. And so recently he has been clearing away the brush, the overgrowth, the weeds, and just physically macheting in a way, while I have been in the space being more in that creative energy, more in my meditative, intuitive energy. There was this moment where he was outside in the early morning clearing away all the overgrowth while I was in my nest space, my den, meditating and calling upon my ancestors and calling upon this intuitive energy. And it just felt like such a beautiful polarity, such a beautiful dynamic, such a beautiful contrast, I suppose, that came together and balanced really, really well. And it just aligned and balanced maintenance of both inner and outer world cultivation was what it struck me as. I am doing the work of maintaining the energetic structures of this space, making sure that it's safe, making sure that it is welcoming, making sure that it is prosperous and abundant, while he is doing the physical work of doing the same thing. And it just felt, it does feel so interesting to reflect upon. The more that I explore my own path, I recognize so clearly how deeply we are designed to connect. Manifestation is at its most powerful manifestation is at its most powerful when co-creative. Our energies are able to flourish within their own element when externally balanced and held. And so when I'm able to be in my true element and I don't have to play in all the roles, I can be in my power, I can be in my joy, I can be in my passion, I can be in my purpose, because I don't have to be everything else, every other gear in the machine. I can be just myself. And so being in community gives us that space, it gives us that freedom to do so, and it's so needed and it's so crucial and it's so important to everything that we do. Manifestation at its core is just so much powerful when it is done in a co-creative and a communal space. Living alone and being my own boss means that I have often had to fill all the roles, and I often do fill all the roles. The presence of a masculine being allows me to release into my softness and come home to myself. I don't have to be all the things. I don't have to be focused or worried about who's chopping the grass. Do I need to go chop the grass? Do I need to go pull the weeds? Do I need to go worry about the snakes? I can be in my space. I can be cooking. I can be creating. I can be dancing. I can be meditating. I can be finding and expressing my joys in ways that are prosperous and abundance, because I am supported by someone who likes to do those things, who enjoys doing those things, who it feels like they can express themselves through those things, and we are able to be in our polarity. He's able to do his stuff, I'm able to do my stuff, and we're both able to thrive and flourish. This is what happens when you are in aligned community, when you're in aligned connection, when you're in aligned partnership, that you're able to fill the pieces. You don't have to do everything by yourself. This current culture grooms and conditions us into isolating individualism, forcing women specifically to harden in order to endure a masculine-centric society. Emotional responses are seen as expressions of weakness, and intuitive callings are gaslit into repression. There is no space for the feminine within this artificial world, and as the artificial seeks to undermine and suppress the flow of the natural world. And so I am seeing this as I have been my own boss, as I live alone, how I have to harden in so many ways just to survive a lot of the structures, just to manage them. And though I live I live a little quite outside Western world and Western standards, as I've been doing my own work to heal and decondition and decolonize, there are still things that I have to interact with, of course. And so I find myself having to harden. I find myself having to push my intuitive space away. I find myself having to justify my intuition when that isn't how I'm meant to flow. I'm meant to be led by this intuitive space. I'm meant to be led by my emotions, and not have to worry if my emotional expressions are logical or if they're rational, because I know that they're coming from a true and unique part of my heart and a part of my spirit. I have been exploring my own expression of the wild feminine and experimenting with its manifestations. I must remind myself to sink deeper into the feminine, which feels uncomfortable as it feels foreign. I remind myself that the path to the pure feminine is aligned with the path of emotional authenticity, no matter the intensity, releasing the shame of the size of this heart and embracing it as my tool of transformation and transmutation. Yeah, all of that. I find that I've learned a lot about toxic masculinity, and now I'm learning a lot about toxic femininity and what that looks like, the manifestations of it, and how I can sink into my wild and authentic and radical femininity, my radical being, and what that looks like for me, how that expresses within my spirit, how I feel called to be and embody. And it can feel confusing at times. Sometimes I find myself clinging to facades or clinging to just anything, any crumbs that I can find to figure out like how I want to express my wild feminine or express my wilder self. And it often just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right. It feels staged or feels posed or just inauthentic. And I have to remember that if I want to connect with my wild feminine, I just need to connect with my authentic emotions. I need to speak from my voice. I need to speak from my heart. I need to embody and embrace all that I am and say it and express it with all that I am, because what else matters? What else matters if I'm not speaking from my truth? If I'm not speaking from my heart? If I'm not coming and bringing myself into the world with all that I am? What else matters? Around other feminine beings, and even masculine at times, I find myself taking the lead in asserting my energy, polarizing myself into masculinity. This ability is important and needed, but can be tiring for one's spirit. I need the space to tune into my emotional body and listen to it as my core of guidance. Masculine beings tend to lean into logic-based thinking that can complement but never replace the wisdom of the intuitive. Logic-based action can only pull from one's direct surroundings and experience for guidance, whereas intuitive-based action can pull from the metaphysical divine for deeper insight. It is interesting to explore these dynamics within a time where the language of gender is changing and expanding so rapidly. It is easy to get lost within the nuance of it all, so I use the confusion as an invitation to listen deeper to my body and the earth. This is where I can find clear and everlasting truth that flows fluid and free. As I do research, it feels daunting because there just is such language that is changing and moving and shifting and evolving, which is a beautiful thing, and just can feel very daunting to not say the wrong words, to not say the wrong terms, to stay up to date with what is right and what's wrong. But I'm finding that as I'm doing my readings, it's important that I take what resonates. I can't keep myself in an echo chamber of people saying the same thing, speaking the same language. I have to expand my experience, expand my knowledge, expand my database to receive so many different perspectives, so I can figure out what aligns best with my truth. And yeah, that's what I have been reflecting on as of late. It's been very, very beautiful to just listen deeper into my body and use that as a form of radical rebellion in a world that teaches us to ignore our bodies in every way. So yeah, I hope that gives you something to think about. I am sending you so much love, and yeah, here is the kitty cat sleeping with me.